a stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most are off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beach dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay at home, Disney Dad.
C2, Cinderella, dreams do come true. How have we not reviewed Cinderella II in the 6 years we've been doing this review segment? We press play, we start with the castle, and inside the mice are running to the fairy godmother because she's going to read them a bedtime story, apparently. They find the old lady sitting in a chair reading aloud to herself, and then she's like, "The end." Snaps it shut. You missed it, bitch. That's our fairy godmother, just sitting and reading to herself. Forget magic. Nothing passes time like a good book. The mice ask her to read them a book, and she says, "Sorry, I'm out of time." So the mice decide they're going to write a book themselves and give it to Cinderella. Pff, good luck, mice. You think anyone can just write a book and sell it? The mice say, "We don't know how to write a book." And the fairy godmother, who didn't have time to just read the book, suddenly has time to cast 10 spells, sing bibbidi bobbidi boo over and over, and help them create a book from scratch. Would have been easier just to read them one. They decide to write their first story called The First Day in the Castle. We go to story 1. It was the first day. Cinderella and the prince moved in after they got married, so they just got back from their honeymoon, and the king goes, "Now you won't know how to be a princess." And what does that even mean? They just got back from their honeymoon and she doesn't know how to act like a... I feel like I should take more time and meditate on what that means, the layers, but I'm going to move on. The second she steps into the castle, they're like, "New girl, as princess, you must plan a banquet." I'm trying to figure out the new dynamics here. The king is now the new bad guy, kind of. He's the one that is like, "Planning banquets is your job, lady." And here comes the mice to help her plan a banquet. They send her to someone named Prudence for like finishing school. And we meet a couple more girls, and this is like Titanic. There's class rules, and a princess never makes her own breakfast. There's even a couple of extra bumbler girls added for good measure. We get an awkward shot of no-waist Cinderella getting fitted with a girdle, because, you know, that size 0 waist just has to be smaller in the castle. This is just a constant, "Can I open the blinds?" "A princess never opens her own blinds." "You can't sit there. Why can't we all sit where we want?" It's just this over and over and over. She sees her peasant friends through the gates, and she wants the gates open, but peasants aren't allowed in the castle, girl. And we get the learn to walk with a book on her head, but poor Cinderella can't do any of this stuff, because in true Disney princess fashion, she's just naturally stick thin and beautiful as all hell, but also just one of the guys. It finally is too much, and she falls over, and she walks out. That's it. She's going to plan the banquet her way. You go, girl. She opens the gates, lets the riffraff in, and breaks into song. She's bucking authority. She's doing things her way. Everyone gets a Cinderella makeover, and suddenly the kingdom isn't as stuffy, and everyone gets to kick back and relax, and they all have like peasant fun. How wonderful. She's still Jenny from the block. Prince says, "I'm glad you did things your own way." Okay, we go back to the mice making a book, and they unanimously decide no one wants to hear this next story. But they tell it anyway. Into the next story. The white cat chases the mice through the garden, and they were right. I don't want to hear this story. Cinderella gets a list of things she needs to do before the spring festival. Her voice is super familiar. Let's look this up, because nothing is happening. Cinderella II is the sequel to the 1950 film, and it's the first Disney movie to use digital paint and ink. Whatever that means. Released February 26, 2022, mostly to negative reviews. Well, here's one more. It did $120 million worth of VHS tape sales, which is insane. One review says it looks and feels like it was, quote, "pieced together remains of a rejected TV series." And that was actually going to be my comment as well, and now I don't have to make it. The plot of this one is that the mouse, Jacques, is angry. He's too small to help Cinderella, so he wished to be big and human, and the fairy godmother makes him a human so he can learn to love himself as a mouse. And that's exactly what happens. And to be fair, if I was a mouse and suddenly human, the first thing I would probably do is love myself as well. And I did not recognize the voice actress to connect that dot. I don't know who this is, okay? Anyway, she turns him human, and we get like an Austin Powers thing where they keep finding creative ways not to show his face with stuff popping up, and then they do. And it's this guy. For some reason, him turning human doesn't stop the cat Pom-Pom from still chasing him. Then at the dance, some large lady wants to dance with him and won't take no for an answer, and he legit screams in her face and runs away. Nice. An elephant gets spooked and starts to trample, and he wishes the fairy godmother would appear, and he's like, help me, stop the elephant. And fairy godmother is like, hey, don't they hate mice? And she turns him back into a mouse, and he scares the elephant away. Like, couldn't she have stayed a human, and she could have used her magic to stop the elephant instead? Like, it doesn't matter. Also, Jacques turning into a human was the story they didn't think anyone would want to hear. The second story was better than the first one. We continue. We get back to the mice telling stories, and we have one story to go. They're like, remember when Anastasia fell in love and the fairy godmother was like, what are you talking about? And we go into story 3, the two stepsisters fight, and why didn't Cinderella murder these two already? Real talk. And the mean stepmother. She's there as well still. Cinderella should have made all of 3 of these characters do like the Game of Thrones walk of shame before killing them. When she returned as princess, why didn't she have these 3 like humiliated and killed? That's the Cinderella II we all want, right? Clock striking midnight intercut with her sneaking up on her sleeping stepsisters with a knife, like cutting off their toes, making them walk in the glass slipper, right? Trudge. Oh, that's dark. And that actually kind of happened in the OG Cinderella. The stepsisters cut their own toes to fit into the glass slipper. Love it. Anyway, the mice see Cinderella and say, good morning, why are you dressed like that? Ouch. They don't hold back. They go to the market, and so do stepmom and stepsisters, and Anastasia declares she needs a man. Cold shower girl. She runs into this baker guy, and he's a bumbler, and everyone makes fun of her. And somehow Cinderella's like, I'm going to help her get a man. And not just any man, this bumbling baker she has a crush on. Again, don't help her get a man, Cinderella. Cut off her arms and legs and make her roll into the ocean for what she did to you in the first movie. Cut off the baker's head, cook it in a pie, and serve it to her as a surprise. Like, why are you being so nice? We cut away from a horse kicking Anastasia through the air, and it's odd. Like, I wonder if there's like, they didn't want to show it because she's a girl character. Like, they would show a male character being kicked through the air by a horse, but they cut away and we just hear it. Maybe they just didn't have the money to animate it, but it was very weird, right? They didn't show it. After getting kicked by the horse, she runs away crying, and Cinderella shows up, and Anastasia's like, why are you dressed like that? You look terrible. And Cinderella goes, I'm not the one with egg on my face. And Anastasia wipes her face. And 2002 kids just rock with laughter, because having egg on your face is just such a common term for the kids back in 2002. Time for Anastasia's glam up, which is wild for Cinderella, who in the first story on the same VHS tape was all about being himself. They're trying to push Lucifer and Pom-Pom together as well. Cinderella tells Anastasia just to smile. Damn, girl, telling another woman to just smile is like a betrayal of your entire gender. Shenanigans continue, and Anastasia feels like she's ugly and not worthy of the chubby, ugly baker's affection as he fights a goat and gives her a crushed flower. And he wants to crush her flower. Fairy godmother and stepsister show up and are like, get away from this poor, horrible baker man. But Anastasia grows a pair and is like, no, mother, he's sweet and wonderful, and we are going to the ball together. And hiding around the corner in the shadows is Cinderella, and she's like, at the ball, Cinderella and the prince dance, as do Anastasia and the baker, and done. And do we come out of the story? Do the mice finish the book? They do. Okay, they come out. They give it to Cinderella. She pours herself a cup of wine and reads it by the fire. And it's not that kind of book, Cinderella. It's not hot at all. Okay. Wow, what a stinker! It has been a while since we've talked about the perception that Disney sequels are terrible, and I feel like that is an unfair stereotype of these. But when people say that, they're 100% talking about Cinderella II. I remember seeing Cinderella 3 on Disney Plus, and it was really good. This one, yuck. However, these classic characters are getting us pumped for our next Disney World trip coming up soon. Nice to revisit some of these characters in preparation. There's a mirror rap over the credits. A mirror rap, people.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not the best. I was wondering if the man has some kind of a hold over the channel that he's allowed to be employed for so long with the standards of journalism and personal appearance.